A lot of talk about the Lions taking an offensive lineman at 17, but is it a Brad Holmes smokescreen?
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody. Matt Dery with you on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network on a Wednesday, April the 8th. Coming up on the program, we'll wrap things up at the end of the show with a call of the day. If you want to be our call of the day, simple. Leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Dery podcast page. We'll also discuss Lions versus Red Wings. I have a take on that and where the hockey team in town fits with discussion about the Lions. Also, who is Jay Tufele, the latest defensive lineman to get a visit here in Detroit? I have an issue on that. Plus, offensive lineman at number 17, and that's where we should begin today. I'm telling you, and if you went back and watched or listened to Jason Lockenfora from yesterday, Jason now at Big Play Sports, NFL insider for CBS for many, many years, and Jason and I were discussing all of these offensive lineman options that could be there at number 17 for the Lions. And we have touched on it numerous times on the program. And look, I talk about it all the time. All right. If you're going to look at need for this team right now, and for this team to take the next step, and for this team to get back to the NFC Championship game, they got to build their offensive line again. All right. Yes, edge rusher is very important. Yes, who's going to replace Alex Anzalone? Is it Malcolm Rodriguez? What if the safeties are hurt? Everything else. You know the skill position players on offense aren't going to be touched in the draft, I wouldn't think. All right? Unless maybe they get a tight end later on. But they like what they have at tight end, at receiver, at running back, at quarterback. So it leaves the offensive line as the easy button to press. If you're a fan doing mock drafts, checking out all the talk each and every day as we lead up to the draft, which is in less than 3 weeks. And yesterday, Jason was just singing the praises of Vega Ioane from Penn State, who is a guard. Right? Today, there was a mock draft, a co-mock draft put together by Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network and ESPN as well. And just, a discussion about where the Lions, Peter Schrager from ESPN, I totally blanked on the name, Schrager and Jeremiah doing a combined mock draft now that NFL Network and ESPN have joined forces. And look, I can't keep up with all of that. But regardless, they were discussing Kadyn Proctor and mocked him to the Lions at 17 and said, people around Proctor and Proctor himself have told people, I will not fall past 17. If I'm there at 17, the Lions are taking me. All right. Proctor is saying this. Proctor's people are saying this. All right. He believes there's no way he gets past 17. Daniel Jeremiah the other day from the NFL Network said he has been told the Lions love Kadyn Proctor. 6'7", 362, huge tackle from Alabama. Every single day on this pod this week, I have brought up the fact that Brad Holmes seems to love SEC offensive linemen. He drafted 2 last year, Miles Frazier, and, of course, Tate Ratledge. He has taken 3 Alabama players in the draft in the first round. Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Terrion Arnold. All right, so it's all out there that the Lions love all of these prospects. Vega Ioane, the big guard from Penn State. We talked about him yesterday. A road grader, a mauler, a perfect Dan Campbell fit. People think, no way, the Lions wouldn't take him at 17. Kadyn Proctor. I saw it today on prideofdetroit.com. They do a great job. Many people believe, and in their community mock draft at POD, they have Spencer Fano, the big tackle from Utah, who's a right tackle. Caleb Lomu is their left tackle. Fano, their right tackle. The mock draft there, the community mock draft there, had Fano going to the Lions at 17. I don't think he's going to be there. We've also heard the name Monroe Freeling. And in many mock drafts, it looks like the appeal of his RAS score, relative athletic score, is through the roof high and close to a 10 out of 10. That, because Brad Holmes has always liked the RAS score as a metric to grade players. Remember last year, Isaac Tesla's RAS score was through the roof, that Brad would take Freeling at number 17. Let me take a deep breath here. Here's where I caution everybody on this. All of these tackles, heck, the guard, Ioane from Penn State, all are being mocked to the Lions. Where are they getting all of their information? Look, I'm raising my hand. I have no inside sources. I've got a few. All right, I got people inside. I have not talked to anybody inside the building in a long time to tell me, Matt, they really like Freeling. Matt, they really like Proctor. They're taking the guard from Penn State. He's a perfect fit. If Fano falls at 17, they're going to sprint the card up to the podium in Pittsburgh. No. I have none of that information. But what is interesting is this has happened before. All right. Was it last year that we were mocking all the weeks leading up to the draft? We're talking about, Lions could get Mike Green. Lions could get the kid that the Falcons drafted. All these edge rushers, right? It was like edge rusher city. And then when did the Lions draft an edge rusher last year in the 2025 draft? Not until the MFing sixth round. Sixth round with Ahmed Hassanin. Remember, they got to get an edge here. Second round. No, took an offensive line. Got to get an edge here. Trading up. It's got to be for an edge. No, it was Isaac Tesla. Got to be an edge here. No, it was Miles Frazier. I just wonder if the Lions are putting it out there that, yes, no matter what, we are taking a tackle or an offensive lineman at number 17. Heck, Dan Campbell said at the combine, before Taylor Decker decided to stay and then get broomed out, they said, regardless of the Decker situation, we're getting help at tackle. We're going to be adding at that spot. That's what Dan Campbell said. And the Lions this offseason have added plenty of offensive linemen. Larry Borum, Juice Scruggs, Ben Barch. They've drafted or they've signed linemen. They've brought in players. So Dan Campbell has said we want to have competition at all spots. Nobody has publicly said on the Honolulu Blue and Silver Warriors staff or anything that Larry Borum is definitely the right tackle or that Penei Sewell is 1,000% locked into moving to left tackle. They're going to have that discussion with him. It's most likely that will happen. But what if all of this talking about talk, what if all of this talk and we get to night number 1 of the draft and the Lions go in a different direction at 17? I don't know what that direction would be. Could it be an edge rusher? Could it be a linebacker that they like? They're not taking a receiver. Okay, that I know. But I'm just, what if out of nowhere, the player that they love the most is Jermod McCoy, cornerback, Tennessee? I don't know. Jermod McCoy tore his ACL. We know Brad Holmes likes injured players. What if the CJ Allen, the linebacker from Georgia, what if he's highest on their board? What if Dylan Thieneman, athlete, safety from Oregon, is highest on their board? Could it be that all of this talk and all these mock drafts and everybody's saying tackle, or Ioane, the guard? And what if this is all just a smokescreen? I just want fans to think that that's a possibility. All right, a former Aaron Glenn player from last year, Jay Tufele, visited the Leos yesterday down at 222. Who is that? We'll tell you coming up next. And Locked On Lions for this a Wednesday, brought to you by and sponsored by BetterHelp. Financial stress is something a lot of people are carrying right now, and it's not just about numbers. It can affect your sleep, your relationships, and your overall mental health in ways that build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it just means you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something I thought about, how easy it is to put pressure on yourself financially without really talking about it. The stress that comes with trying to figure everything out on your own, the expectations you feel is trying to get everything together, right? And how that pressure can spill into other areas of your life. That's why you might need therapy. Therapy isn't about financial advice. It's about working through the stress, the anxiety, and the emotions that come with it. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you need. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, welcome back in. Matt Dery with you. It is a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks to everybody that checks us out on all of our social media platforms, at Locked On Lions on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. Thank you for checking us out on all platforms. We have updated and fixed the Instagram page. So you're getting videos on there as well. And follow me as well at Dery, Dery Speaks too. All right. So yesterday we saw reports Jay Tufele, 26-year-old defensive tackle, 6'3", 305, started his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars, 3 seasons with the Bengals. Last year signed a 1-year deal with the Jets, former 4th-round pick of the Jags out of USC. Visited the Lions on Tuesday per the NFL transaction wire. Tufele has played double-digit games in 3 straight years. Last year with the Jets, 12 games, started 2 for Aaron Glenn. Only a half a sack in 46 career games. He's more of a run-stopping defensive lineman. Per Pro Football Focus, last year, Jay Tufele finished with a 51 grade. Not the best. Run defense grade of 55.8, pass rush grade 51.1, a very low tackling grade as well of just 28.3. The highest season that he has had from PFF is 57.7, his rookie year with the Jaguars. Last year, his best game was week 15 at Tennessee when he was graded out at a 79.7. He had some 3 games in the 30s if you're into the PFF situation. So Jay Tufele, 26-year-old guy, run stopper, and would be a, here I say it again, depth piece along the defensive line if the Lions were to sign him. Here's my question on the Tufele situation. If you're looking at a depth defensive lineman and somebody that is probably better against the run than the pass, why wouldn't you just re-sign Roy Lopez? If you're looking at Jay Tufele. Right now, we know this along the Lions' interior of the defensive line. We've got Tyleik Williams. We know Lee McNeil is there. Levi Onwuzurike can play there. But why would you look at adding Tufele, unlikely another 1-year deal? Why didn't you just bring back Roy Lopez? Now, I get it. Roy Lopez got more money than we thought he would get. Just over, $6 million, $7 million on a 2-year deal to return to the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe that was too rich for the Lions' blood. But to me, I would have brought Lopez back. Tufele looks size-wise 6'3", 305. That is pretty identical to Lopez. This is another clogger, a guy that will certainly have has a high motor. I'm assuming that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes likely talked to Aaron Glenn about him. He stays healthy for the most part, although he got hurt at the end of last season. Don't forget the Lions also brought back Miles Adams, Chris Smith, and Mekhi Wingo. Mekhi Wingo is a weird story. 2 years ago, we all loved him as a 6th-round pick out of LSU. Last year, he was, barely played. He was always a healthy scratch. But at least right now, the Lions are kicking the tires on Jay Tufele. I would have just brought Roy Lopez back. So looking at depth along the interior of the defensive line. All right, we're going to do a call of the day in a second. I want to bring something up. Lions fans, we know, passionate, gritty. You guys come to the games. You guys watch the games. And the NFL is king. And this team runs this town. It just does. And for the last 4 years, this club's been really good. Made it to the NFC Championship game a couple of years ago. 2 years ago, won 15 games. And the demand for tickets, the demand for swag and gear and everything else is at an all-time high. Right? We joke about Rod Wood and 222 and all that, but the Lions president, who's retiring soon, they've created a business model that's working. Right? Whether you believe them or not, that they're going to be middle of the pack in cash and everything else is one thing. But for the most part, the most popular team in this town are the Lions. They just are. Has anybody been paying attention to what is going on down at Little Caesars Arena right now? And I'm not talking about the basketball team. Pistons are playing great. They've locked up the 1 seed, and they're doing all of this without Cade Cunningham. Props to Trajan Langdon, J.B. Bickerstaff, and that entire outfit. Your hockey team, the Detroit Red Wings, are choking away a playoff spot. They've got 3 games left, and they're in big trouble. And last night, up 3-2, 15 seconds left. Blue Jackets pull the goalie, slap shot, score. Jackets tie the game. They go to penalty shots. Zach Werenski, the pride of Grosse Pointe, wins it for the Jackets. Columbus bypasses Detroit, getting 2 points. Red Wings get just 1, and the Red Wings are in big trouble in trying to make the playoffs, something they have not done in over a decade. I bring this up because Brad Holmes takes a lot of heat and has taken a lot of heat lately for lack of aggression in free agency, the handling of the Taylor Decker situation, which I kind of got on Brad about just from a communication standpoint. And fans are upset, and fans are disappointed in what happened last season. Brad Holmes has built a pretty darn good team here with the Lions. They've had 4 straight winning seasons. Did they disappoint us last year? Absolutely. Should they have played a lot better? Yes. Were there issues? Sure. Steve Yzerman, if the Red Wings don't make the playoffs, how is he still employed after this? But will anyone say anything? Will anyone in the media, in the Detroit media, anybody going to step up and say, you know what, it might be time for a change? Steve is a legend here. Stevie, the captain, number 19, Stanley Cups, 97. Come on. Dude was a legend, is a legend. Will go down in Red Wing lore as one of the great centermen in Red Wing history, if not the best. I was in the building at the Joe in 97 when he hoisted the cup. Come on, legendary stuff. But as a general manager, what are they doing? They suck. Blew another game last night. Might not make the playoffs after they started the year on fire. And I'm not saying that fans are saying fire Brad Holmes, but people are up in arms about Brad didn't do this and Brad didn't do that. And this guy, the general manager of the Red Wings, who I know is a legend here, that's going to be a difficult thing for ownership and Chris Ilitch to do. But if it's not working, how do you not make a change? We've been spoiled as Lions fans the last few years. I get that. Right? They won 15 games 2 years ago. They were 15-2, and they had their own gag job in the divisional playoffs against the Commanders. But I don't see the core. This is like what people, Joe Joe, you can't compare Joe Dumars to Steve Yzerman. Joe Dumars has won something as an executive. I just wanted to bring that up. I know you're probably saying to yourself, why am I talking hockey? Because there is a correlation there. All right, call of the day coming up next, right here on Locked On Lions. All right, before we tell you about call of the day, I got to tell you about our Locked On Lions Everydayer Club. Don't forget to check it out. Join us. You get ad-free episodes of the show, access to a group chat with me and our Locked On Lions group chat and Discord chat. It is a lot of fun. Other listeners of the show out there, we're talking Lions every single day. Join us, please. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonlions.supercast.com. That's lockedonlions.supercast.com to join our Locked On Lions Everydayer Club. You get the show for free, or you get the show ad-free. It's a lot of fun to be a part of our community here on Locked On Lions. It is our Everydayer Club. All right, time for the call of the day. We haven't done one of these in a while. Please leave us some voicemails. Let's get some fresh calls of the day here. You can do that by going to speakpipe.com/Dery, D-E-R-Y, my last name, podcast page. Speakpipe.com/Dery podcast page. Let's talk a little draft. We will do that right now. He always leaves a voicemail, but he leaves it as anonymous. One of our everydayers checking in. You know the voice. Here on our call of the day, here on a Wednesday. Let's check it out.
Hey, Matt, Jason, Everydayer. Just a fun thought exercise. These mock drafts obviously never work out the way that people predict. Let's say there's a run on tackles. There's, a lot of offensive lines in the league need help this year, and the Lions don't want to reach for a tackle in the first round. And let's also say Brad is stubborn yet again on the edge and just kind of thinks we're good there. Who could you see that's sort of projected to go in the low teens maybe that could realistically have a chance of falling into the Lions' lap outside of those positions? And, why do you think that player would just be a really interesting fit? Thanks.
All right, Jason, thank you very much. Jason calls in a lot. He's awesome. We appreciate Jason checking in. Everyday listener. All right, I have a name. I don't think he's going to be there at 17, but Jason asked the question, what if someone fell and then there was a run on tackles and Fano is gone, Freeling is gone, or Proctor's gone, and there's a run, and maybe that's what the Lions, Brain Trust, and Brad Holmes were thinking about going into pick 17. There is one name that if he fell, I would snag in a second. I don't think he's going to. And I've looked at plenty of mocks and he really hasn't fallen. But what if the concern around the league is that Rueben Bain, the edge rusher from Miami, what if the concern is that his arm length of 30 and 7/8 inch arm length, what if the arm length issue is so much so that teams pass on Bain? When you watch Rueben Bain play for Miami, and they got to the national championship game, obviously, and played my Indiana Hoosiers and lost. You watched a guy who has such an unbelievable motor, is such a good pass rusher, and just gets around the edge like nobody's business. I was looking at the Matt Miller mock draft the other day from ESPN.com that we went over last week just to check on Rueben Bain, and he was 9th in this mock draft going to Kansas City. I've seen other mocks where Rueben Bain won't get past Miami at 11. He won't get past the Rams at 13. And the Ravens maybe would take him at 14 if he somehow got there. But what if a Proctor, a Fano, a Freeling, Ioane, the big guard from Penn State we talked about yesterday, what if all these guys go ahead of Rueben Bain and he's somehow there at 17? I mean, that would be Lions fans' dream to get the edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson on a cheap rookie deal. I don't think it's happening. But look, every year, somebody falls. Last year it was Shedeur Sanders, but it was like 3 days of falling until the 5th round. Right? Remember Johnny Manziel years ago, fell into the 20s, and the Browns finally took him. Right? Guys fall. It happens in the NBA draft. Remember when John Wallace fell to the Knicks? Paul Pierce fell to the Celtics. Seems like every year in a draft, there's somebody that is sitting in that room, in the green room, and you're going, man, oh, it's got to be Rueben Bain here. Nope. It's got to be this guy here. Nope. So that would, to answer Jason's question, I think that would be a guy that it would surprise me if he was there at 17, but what if that happened and he was available for Detroit at 17? I don't see a Cassius Howell from Texas A&M or even his college teammate, Akeem Mesidor from Miami, going ahead of Bain. I don't see it. The other guy to keep an eye on is Avion Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson. I don't think the Lions would take him at 17, but I've seen mock drafts that have Terrell going as high as like 12 or 13. And then I have some that see him going as low as 29. But again, I don't know if that would be something that Brad Holmes, but he's not somebody that falls. Bain's the guy that, to answer Jason's question. So Jason, thank you for checking in. Again, want to be a call of the day. Check us out. Leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Dery podcast page. Tomorrow, Dane Brugler, author of The Beast, the best, or one of the best NFL draft guides out there from theathletic.com, is going to join us tomorrow right here on Locked On Lions. Do not miss that.